And here we have the last base set archetype to receive an overhaul with the Prop 15 format. Now, if you remember, the original damage swap used Mr. Mime's barrier ability to only take 10 or 20 damage at a time. Then it used Alakazam's ability to move that damage off onto a Chansey, and then you could Pokemon Center that Chansey. And just keep doing this over and over until your opponent either found a way to knock out those Mr. Mimes, gusted out your Alakazams and knocked them out, or you just stalled them to death. So, the addition to this deck is actually one that removed Chansey altogether. It's almost a card that was made perfectly for this deck, and that is Sabrina's Golduck. You thought you knew Damage Swap, well, now here comes Damage Shift. A Pokemon that's not even Psychic type being given this Psychic type move from a Psychic type gym leader is pretty cool. Damage Shift lets you move one damage counter off of every Pokemon you have that has any damage counters on it onto your opponent's active. So if you have a full bench and Golduck as your active, you can move 7 damage counters if you want, dealing 70 damage to your opponent's active. And there are a lot of creative ways to get damage on all of your Pokemon. That way you can fully power up this attack pretty quick. One of which is Rocket's Minefield Gem, where you can use it to your advantage as well as your opponent's disadvantage. And I bring this up now because this card did have a revision. If you look at the text, it just says when a player plays a Pokemon, put damage counters on it. So they didn't specify how many damage counters. Later, when they did the revision, it turns out that it was 2 damage counters. So just keep that in mind as we're talking about the Minefield Gem. So let's damage shift gears into the build of this deck. This really fun, super tactical deck. Let's get started. So we now have Rocket's Abra, or Abra from the Rocket set rather. That was much better than the base set era. So we can use that to work our way up to base set Alakazam. I do include a couple of Kadabras in this deck, just because you do have time to allow it. Prop 15 didn't see very much Gust of Wind. So you can work your way up into that Alakazam without having to use Breeder, even though I also use Breeder so that Alakazam can get set up much faster. Alakazam, of course, has that ability to move around damage counters as much as you like on your turn. And Mr. Mime has the great ability of only taking damage in increments of 10 or 20 at a time. So it really stopped your opponent from dealing a whole lot of damage to it. If it was over 20, it didn't take any damage at all, which gave it that one little advantage over Erica's Dratini. You also have 3 Sabrina's Psyduck and 3 Sabrina's Golduck, which of course has the main attack of this deck, which is that damage shift. You're going to be moving damage counters over to your opponent, which is really going to catch them off guard. Sabrina's Golduck didn't see very much play. Actually, Sabrina cards saw very little play overall just because they didn't have very much synergy with each other. And of course, that Rocket's Minefield Gem, it works against you and your opponent, but the point of this deck is to actually have a small amount of damage counters on all of your Pokemon anyway. When paired with Erica's Perfume, you can force your opponent to play basic Pokemon from their hand, which, oh man, it's so evil and fun to do to your opponent because they'll see that Minefield Gem, and if they can't replace it with another gem, they'll just hold off on playing some basics from their hand. But here you come with Erica's Perfume, and you force them to play those basics out of their hand and put some damage on them. So that when they finally become active, you actually already have an upper hand on them when attacking with Sabrina's Golduck or Mr. Mime. Professor Oak is there just to fill your hand up with Pokemon you want to get Mr. Mime, Alakazam, and at least one Golduck set up on your bench as early as possible. Breeder to get up into those Alakazams and start moving damage counters very quickly. Sabrina's Golduck doesn't work super well until you can get that Alakazam out. That's when you're able to spread out the damage and make sure there's only 10 or 20 damage on each of your Pokemon. That way, if they do get gusted out or something, you're not too worried about them. And of course, running the very rarely seen in this format, Rainbow Energy. Because when you attach Rainbow Energy to a Pokemon, it does 10 damage to it, which more consistently lets you put that on a Pokemon, which can be transferred over with Sabrina's Golduck. The rest of this deck's going to be filled out with Psychic Energy. That way you can continuously use Damage Shift or Meditate or even a Confuse Ray every now and then, you know. What the hell? The ideal start for this deck is going to be getting that Mr. Mime as your active because it can stall out your opponent quite a bit while you set up. This deck doesn't actually require that many turns of setup. It can actually be done in one or two. Most of the time it's going to take two or three though. So lead with that Mr. Mime, and that gives you time to get an Abra or a Psyduck on the bench, Professor Oak so that you can get the evolution cards and have them ready for next turn. Ideally, you can also set up a Rocket's Minefield Gym very early in the game. For Prop 15, your opponent's only going to be running a max of 3 stadium cards themselves, so it's going to be hard for them to get a replacement stadium that early in the game. And of course, the earlier you get out that Rocket's Minefield Gym, you want to get it played down first before you start laying down basics. That way, all of your basics have 2 damage counters on them. So turn 2, you can actually swap into that Golduck, or if it's already active, you can start firing off those damage shifts. And if everything already has 2 damage counters on it, that's going to give you at least 2 turns worth of damage counters to move. The main problem with this deck is that it's super risky. Putting damage counters on your own Pokemon is always going to be a risky thing. Even if you can move them around as much as you want with Alakazam, if all of your Pokemon have 10 or 20 damage on them already, it's going to make them a lot easier to knock out for your opponent, even if you're consistently doing 70 damage to them. And just as Sabrina's Golduck seems to have been made just for this deck, there's also one trainer card that seems to be made just to screw over this deck, and that's Erica's Kindness. Erica's Kindness it heals 10 damage off of every Pokemon on the field. That's yours and your opponent's. So it can absolutely wreck the strategy of this deck. Fortunately, no one used this card. Not even Erica decks included this card because it was really counterintuitive a lot of the time. Another card that could potentially be added to this deck is Sabrina's Hypno, because it has that attack for 1 energy that can pull a basic Pokemon out of your opponent's discard and put it on their bench. In doing so, you put damage counters on it equal to half of its HP. So that again is just kind of throwing around a lot of damage counters. However, it doesn't work super well with the synergy of the deck. However, one card that does is Brock's Diglett. It's almost a Haymaker card in that it can deal a big chunk of damage for only a couple of energy, and usually people wouldn't really use it because it deals 10 damage to everything on your bench. However, with this deck, that's exactly what you want. You would have to mix in a few fighting energies just to make sure you could get off the attack with Diglett, and it only has 40 HP, so it could be even riskier to use. As always, guys, let me know down in those comments what you think about this deck. Let me know any cards you would add or take out, and let me know what decks you would like to see in the future. Until next time, guys, bye.